Okay, we're going to try what I call the fastest way to make an organic looking enclosure for an Arduino Uno. And we're going to start first by loading an Uno STL. And I pull this off of Thingiverse. And an STL is a type of mesh, so we go to Insert Mesh. And I like it rotated 90 degrees, so that its bottom is flat with the XZ plane. The top of the bottom plane. And then I also have already created a hole pattern mimicking these holes here, and that's in a DXF. So I'm going to insert DXF, I'm going to browse to it, and it's this Arduino hole pattern DXF. We're going to say this plane also. It takes a bit of time. Say OK. And click on the top plane, orient ourselves. I want to confirm that it's aligned properly, so I'm going to hide the mesh body, and we see that those holes of the DXF align with the holes of the STL mesh. I'm also going to retitle these, so I'll call this Arduino. I'll call this, okay, it's already called Arduino hole pattern. And for giggles, I'm going to hide that. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to stop this sketch. I'm going to grab all these. I'm going to create an extrusion. And we'll just make it gentle like that. Okay. And I'm going to show the Arduino again. There we go. So I could use these as mounting pins or later as constructions to cut holes through the enclosure I make. Now I'm going to go into the sculpt mode. We've entered the sculpt environment, use the finish form button to return to solid modeling. And I'm going to create a box. I'm going to create it on this top/bottom plane. And I'm going to hit top, so we're oriented there. And it's asking us to specify the center point. So I'll pick roughly the center of the Arduino. And I'll move it here. Now notice, I could make it so that the USB port and the power cables are protruding a little bit. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll see what that will look like. And I'm going to leave that like that. Oops. Okay, I'm actually going to give us a little bit of extra room up here. I'm going to move that later. I'm holding Shift and the middle mouse wheel button on the mouse to orbit. And I'm going to say OK. I'm also going to move. I'm going to click to expand the bodies. I'm going to click to expand on this. I'm going to retitle this Arduino enclosure. We'll just call it enclosure. And I'm going to right click. And I'm going to change the opacity control to about 50% so we can see the Arduino board in there. Now I'm going to right click and move. We're going to go down a little bit. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm holding Shift and the middle scroll wheel on the mouse to orbit again. And I'm taking a look around in here. Okay. We'll call this good for explanatory purposes right now. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hit, now if I wanted to, I'm going to hide the Arduino. I'm going to click on the enclosure. I can do a lot of editing here. I'm going to change its opacity back to 100%. I'm going to say modify, edit form. So I can click on, let's say, these spots, pull up, pull forward a bit. I can click on this little dot, edit form, give it a little bump out. So you see you can come up with an organic shape pretty quickly, pretty easily. Now I'm going to hit finish form. Now it has made it a body in the model mode here. And these are the 4 pins. I'm going to right click, I'm going to create a group there. So I think that means that when I move one, all of them will move, but we won't test that yet. And I'm going to go back to opacity of about 50%. I'm going to turn the Arduino back on, there it is. Now I'm going to make this enclosure a shell, so it has some thickness to its walls. We do that by saying modify and shell. I'm going to say, let's make it a 2mm thick shell. And you can see the direction that it's going. It's done it in. We could change that direction here. I'm going to say OK. And there might be some concern that that shell is going to interfere with the board right there. That looks very close. Yeah, that looks like that's inside it a bit. So we would have to modify this later before we printed it. Or scooch it forward a bit. So again, shift, middle scroll wheel, or just the scroll wheel to pan, and then scroll wheel to, pressing down the scroll wheel to pan, and using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to cut holes for the mounting screws for the Arduino in the bottom part here. And I'm going to do that by hiding the Arduino. I'm going to click on these 4 pins. I'm going to say move. I'm going to move down. We can see that it is protruding through the bottom there now. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to go to modify. I'm going to combine. But the default option here is cut. I could do join or intersect. I'm going to do cut here. I'm going to select the enclosure as the target body, and the tool bodies I'm going to select my 4 pins. You can see those turn red. I'm going to say cut, or say OK rather. Now we see those mounting hole screws, mounting holes are there. Looks like it's a little close to the curve here, but that should be okay. Now what I'd like is to cut this in half, roughly in half. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to do it in this top plane. Scroll wheel down to move. I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle. I'm going to make it larger than it needs to be. This is going to be my cut plane. And escape and shift and scroll wheel down. Now I'd like to move this plane. I have a little trouble sometimes moving these things, so first I'm going to hit stop sketch. I'm going to left click, shift left click, hold down all these edges, and then shift the plane itself, and now move, and now I can move this up and down. Move it roughly in the middle of this object here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to right-click this sketch. I'm going to say offset plane. And I'm not going to offset it by anything. It's going to be 0. So I'm going to make a construction plane right where this is. Sometimes this happens. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to delete. I'd like that. That plane should really be right in the plane. There we are. Let's try that again. There we go. A little quirk of the software. Now I'm going to click on the enclosure, and I'm going to say modify. I'm going to go to split body, and it's already selected that body. Now the splitting tool I'm going to choose as the plane that we just made. We can see this red circle indicates that it's going to intersect correctly. We say OK, and it has made a cut through there. So now I can hide this plane, hide all the construction, hide the sketch. And now we see there's an enclosure bottom and enclosure top. So I'm going to relabel these. Enclosure top, enclosure bottom. And now we can export each of these as an STL. Let's say Arduino bottom oops, yeah. Oh, I see, I labeled them wrong. This one will export. Save as STL. Call it Arduino top, although we've reversed those. And then we're going to go into 360. I'm going to upload these. I wonder if I can do two at a time. Let's find out what happens. And say upload. We'll try. Okay, multiple STLs at a time it seems to not like. That might be for an assembly or something. And we can orbit, look around at this guy. And then let's do the other one. And there we go. Lovely. So we will run into some interference with the base of the board here. So I'd like to learn how to run an actual interference fit where we drop the Arduino into this and we see where the edges hit so we can see how high it sits up from the floor. Or we can just make a flatter base and make that easier on us. Fun stuff.